This is the same report as was produced last month, as was highlighted by Councillor Lewis. And really what I want to say in relation to this issue is quite complex, but we're working on a number of solutions that we believe that we will be able to deliver very, very shortly. It's a very sensitive situation, and the dolmen is situated on private property. And we are working very, very closely with the landowner. We're also working very, very closely with the groups that are interested in this particular issue, but we're also working very closely with the Cherrywood team. And I think it's important to point out that we are expecting a Greenway, a public consultation Part 8, to be announced in the next couple of weeks. That will provide the means in which the access to the dolmen can be formalised, and that we're expecting that very, very shortly. The dolmen is accessible at the moment and people are accessing it, but it's a difficult access, and people are still, as you can see from the newspaper today, there was a number of photographs taken by people close to the dolmen. So it is still accessible, it's not inaccessible. But we need to formalise that access and to make that access easier. But there's a number of complexities and sensitivities that I'm working on, and I will bring a further report to the meeting to advise in relation to that on any updates.
Thank you, Ms Langan, and thank you for the work you have done to date, and that would be great if there was more accessible access that could be created, and no better lady to get an agreement if it's coming. So thank you. Councillor Saul, please.
Yep, thank you, Caherlick. Again, just to start off, this motion, or this report, was on foot of a motion passed at the November Council meeting. Again, I first of all like to thank Councillor Smith, Donald Smith, for his support on the wording of that. I've no doubt when I was playing in Deer Park, he was playing in his back garden, which had a dolmen near it, but he has a 30 or 40 year history with the dolmen, so I'm a late conscript to it, but I'd like to thank him for his support on the wording of the November motion. Again, I'd like to welcome the report, and I'd like to welcome the verbal report as well. This is a unique valley and it's a unique dolmen, thousands of years old. Access has been challenging over the last 2 years. I had to climb over a tree and a river, and hoping I wouldn't break my leg or get soaked at the time. But I think this is a difficult situation, and as the manager said, it's a very complex situation in relation to a lot of state agencies, but also NAMA. And I think there was a lot of concern in relation to the NAMA-held land, which is up for tender. And I think a local Facebook page was created and did a huge amount of work in making raising the awareness of the issues in relation to both the NAMA land, but also the accessibility issues which have been coming to a head over the last couple of months and the last year. I think it's important that we keep the pressure on this, so I'd like to propose that the manager, with your agreement, that you bring back a report to the June meeting. I do understand that Cherry was involved, the OPW are involved, obviously the private landowner has her own rights there. It's a very complicated process that has to be skillfully negotiated, but I'm from reading the report, and particularly from your response, manager, I'm very, very hopeful that there will be an agreement in the next couple of months. So there will be progress, progress in relation to securing public access. And it is vital that while securing public access to a national monument, we also have to be careful of the unique heritage of the valley itself, and not necessarily wanting to suddenly put this on the map as a tourist attraction, and suddenly we're looking at car parking, and we're looking at completely and utterly destroying parts of the heritage and ecosphere that we're trying to protect. So I do think it's a very, very difficult balancing act that you have to do. I'd like to thank also Deirdre Black, who's the Heritage Officer, who, working with you, manager, has done a huge amount of work in meeting the residents, local groups and the landowner. So I would propose, thank you for all the work you've done. I'm looking forward to the Part 8 from the Cherrywood side, and I would propose that we bring this back as a headed item for the June meeting, if that's agreeable with you and the Council. Thank you. Councillor Lewis, please.
Thanks, Caherlick, and thanks for all the work, I suppose, that's gone into reaching this juncture, I'm very aware of the issue and the struggle to get access, continued and permanent access to this site going into the future. Just have a couple of questions. First of all, just there's a little bit of ambiguity, I think, within the report where it suggests or it states that visual access is the objective. And while I appreciate how sensitive the biodiversity is in the area, how sensitive the history is around the site, I'm just looking for some clarity on the term visual access, because as things stand, yes, there's no formalised route to the portal tomb, but people do enjoy visiting it and can at the moment and do regularly visit it. So I'd just like some clarity on that. Also, just in relation to the Cherrywood SEZ, it was part of the Cherrywood scheme that a route would be finalised leading to the dolmen. It has been suggested over the past week that a revised look at the Cherrywood SEZ may happen, and I'm just wondering, is that process likely to happen anytime soon? Because personally speaking, I think it could be a process and should be a process that we look very closely at this. And also, just NAMA was raised. I think NAMA's response was disgraceful, to be quite honest with you, but it is typical of their remit, of their economic remit, and not actually managing one of the finest assets, international assets we have, never mind local assets to this county. And also, I was just looking for some clarity on the Part 8 process as well. I think the suggestion to come back from a June meeting is wise, and I think we need to keep this on the agenda. Thanks, Ciara.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kivillahan, please.
Yeah, as somebody that lives in Cherrywood, I'm well aware of the existence of this unique piece of heritage. And also being involved in the tourism industry over the last number of years, I often worry about the excess of tourism at some sites and the destruction it wrought as well. This is quite a unique site, and it's unique because the environment in which it sits. If it just stood out in a field on its own, it wouldn't be as unique as it does in this site. It's a valley. It's a little opening. An opening among a small forest, if you want to put it that way, and there has been trees growing around it for a long time, and it would be terrible to lose that uniqueness. I can understand why you'd want it visual rather than everybody touching it and so on. We have seen with Newgrange over the last number of years, and where they've had to bring in restrictions because of the damage done by mass tourism. I think the most important thing is how we give people access here and how we control it as well. The fact that people weren't able to access it for a long time has kind of protected it in a way as well. We've seen other dolmen sites which have been, done a lot of damage to. And I'm sure that the Department of Local Government and Heritage will be looking very closely at that site as well. So when we do see a plan, and if we can get agreement here, we must look at protecting the uniqueness of the site, and at the same time giving people an understanding and a visual aspect of what we have there to make sure that that can be preserved for future generations.
Thanks, Councillor Kivillahan. That's great. Thank you very much. And Councillor Clark, did I see you? Yeah, go ahead. And then we have Councillor Frank McNamara.
Good morning, I'd like to echo the comments made by previous speakers, thanking Ms Langan and others for the work that they do. Obviously, this is one of Cloney Shankill's great pieces of paleo history. On the right side of the Bennetstown Road, and I would like to pay tribute to Councillor Saul and Councillor Smith for their initial work and the report. Like other councillors, I am interested in that final sentence, second last sentence, emerging options emerging to secure access. And I would like to ask you, what is your end game as to what access actually is? I appreciate what Councillor Kivlahan said, that we don't necessarily want this, priceless monument to be disrupted. There is something to be said to be able to get close to it, to stand beside it, its awesome majesty. Visual access isn't necessarily going to give that amenity to our citizens. So I would like to see a situation where, we don't want, people climbing it, but we would like to be able to, surely, to be able to be photographed beside it and to actually be able to stand relatively close to it. And that's something I think I would hope for. But again, I acknowledge the tangled web that we will have to somehow cut through over the weeks and months ahead. I look forward to the report in June, but I would just be interested as to what your final endgame is. And there may be some disagreement in this room. I would hope that it might be more than visual access. And I certainly, I think maybe the other councillors would agree that it's, visual access is not enough, and we have to make sure that all options are on the table. And we as councillors, whether it's via site visits or anything that we can do, also talking to our government parties, we will be very happy to do anything we can to make sure that citizens can gain relatively close access to this monument. Thank you, Caherla.
Thank you very much. And I'll second Councillor Saul's proposal to bring a report back in June. Councillor Frank McNamara, please.
Thanks, Caherla, and thanks to everyone who spoke. I remember in 2019 canvassing the Brennanstown Road, and I was a young man figuring out as I went along. And every now and then, someone would invite me in for a cup of tea, and I would always accept. And I went into this woman's house on the Brennanstown Road. We were chatting. She gave me a cup of tea, and I was having a great time talking to them. And I'm pretty sure I got their vote, although sure, I'll never know. And then she said, "Do you want to come out back? I have a surprise out back." And sure, I said, "Okay, that sounds great. I wonder what this is going to be." So she brings me out back.
Point of order.
Go down. Oh, sorry.
Point of order. Is this TMI?
We'll tell him.
So
we
went.
Go ahead, Councillor McNamara. Yeah.
So I went down this deep garden, all right? And she brought me to this dolmen that was thousands of years old. And she said to me, "Do you know, this is one of the biggest dolmens in the country?" And I said to her, "I had no idea this existed." And she said, "Yeah, most people don't. People come down every now and then, but most people have no idea it's here." So I thought I was very special anyway, and I did a video about the dolmen and all that kind of stuff on the campaign trail. And all I can say is that I think this is a very positive development. I'm delighted with all the coverage it's getting. I look forward to school children coming to see this dolmen as a bit of local heritage, because I and a lot of my friends, most of us had no idea it was there, even though we've been there how many thousands of times before. So fundamentally, I'm deeply optimistic by this debate and by the report. And I look forward to the legions of school children travelling down to the dolmen as part of their history projects in the future. So I'm just delighted. That's basically it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Councillor McNamara. I know that lady well. She canvasses for the Labour Party all the time.
Well, at least,
a vote for Dennis.
At least now I know.
But sure, we enjoyed this. Thank you very much. Have we, that's Therese, do you need to come back, please, to answer some of those queries?
No, and thanks very much for everything that you said. And I suppose really, we would obviously want to provide the optimum access to the dolmen and that physical access. However, we do have to learn from other experiences, and we will have to engage with the OPW to learn about what exactly we should be doing, because they're the people with the expertise in terms of the protection of monuments. I suppose this is 6,000 years old. I don't have all the answers at the moment. I genuinely don't, except our ambition is to try and give a formalised, easy access to the dolmen that people can appreciate it. And that will be done through the Greenway, and that has been mentioned, and that will be going out to public consultation in the next couple of weeks. That will help formalise that access. Really, I think at the end of the day, people want access, and that's what we're going to try and do. But as I said, it's sensitive, it's on private property, and we have to tread very carefully. But we are in the midst of negotiations around this particular issue, and I will bring a report back to the June meeting in regard to it.
Thank you very much, Ms Langan, and we look forward to having that report back. And thank you and the entire team for all the work you're doing on it. Councillor Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, I just asked a very specific planning question, just about the Cherrywood development scheme, and if this was likely to be revised, because it would have a possible impact potentially on this site.
Is that for you, Ms Henchy, or sorry, Anne Devine, Ms Devine, thank you.
Yeah, I think, Councillor Lewis, you're referring to that the possibility of us looking at an amendment as we move forward with Cherrywood, and in particular we're obviously looking at the building heights at the moment, and obviously an element of town centre 1 as well. So that's our focus at the moment. So I think what Trace has articulated here is in the context of the Greenway, which I suppose not really a greenway per se. It's a natural walk through a beautiful valley, and we're very conscious of that. So you're trying to find that happy medium between allowing people access on a beautiful area, but that it wouldn't be a thoroughfare if you're with me. So we've got funding from the URDF to do that linear park, and we'll be sensitive to the route and to the Dolman for that. So I think the same outcome will happen. I don't think the planning scheme needs to be amended as per se. So does that answer your question?
Hugh, come on.
Well, I might be thinking of stuff that you aren't aware of, in fairness, you know. And I'm just wondering, will it be amendable, that scheme, in the near future? I suppose that's probably a fairer way of asking you.
Apologies, councillors. I might talk to you after. Sorry, I can't turn around and talk into the mic at the same time. So sorry if I'm coming across. I'm not really aware of what you're saying when you say the planning scheme in totality. You mean being amended?
There is proximity of the Portal Down, large planned development, and I'm just wondering, potentially could amendment, if the scheme is reopened for consideration or revision, could potentially an amendment be put relating to the land surrounding the Dom?
Okay, apologies, I think I catch your drift now. I'm just looking at it where it is, and it's very much hugging the boundary of the STZ. So the lands within the STZ around the Dolman would all be green infrastructure. They're all in a natural greenway, or woodland, and an ancient woodland area. So I suppose you're talking about the lands coming off Town Road. So I can't really speak to that because that's outside the STZ, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's... And we might, whatever we can in the report, incorporate it back in this. Members, can we note that, please? Thank you.